YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back, and today we're ranking every defensive line in the NFL. So taking the entire unit, ranking it, we're splitting them up, 3-4 defenses, 4-3 defenses, ranking from worst to first. Did the same thing for secondary, same thing for linebackers. A bunch of these unit ranking videos already on the channel, a bunch of player ranking videos. We got a top 100 voted by the fans going on right now. So a lot going on here, plenty more to come. Full coverage in season, so hopefully you can join us for that. Hopefully you can subscribe. Would really appreciate it. You're going to want to turn notifications on so you don't miss a thing during this NFL season. Follow that Twitter. Always talking during live games. Always, just talking football in general and updating you on the channel. And we have a podcast link in the description and in the comments for anything on the screen that you may need there. Let's start with the 3-4 defensive lines here. I got 14 teams that I'm projecting to be 3-4 teams, 18 teams I'm projecting to be 4-3 defenses. Obviously, there'll be some hybrid teams that'll give some Leo looks, a little bit of both, and there's teams that'll run pretty heavy nickel packages, but that's how I split them up. So the Cardinals are going to finish in 14th for the 3-4 defensive line rankings. Jordan Phillips is a pretty good pickup. It's kind of a mystery, though. It's kind of a wait and see because he's just a rotation guy up until last year and was pretty darn productive last year on the Bills. We got to see if he's going to be that productive. He's playing, inside, up front of Chandler Jones, perhaps. So that could be big. Corey Peters really isn't the same maybe as he once was, but he'll be their nose tackle. And Zach Allen, who they liked pre-draft last year, I'm projecting to be the end on their 3-4. You still need to see a lot more from him. Wasn't really a big Zach Allen guy, pre-draft. Kind of 3-4 ends body, but is he strong enough? Is he more of a 4-3 end? But then is he fast enough for that? That's kind of what my problem was with him. I just couldn't find the right spot. So we'll see. They like him a lot, so we'll see if he progresses there. 13, the Patriots. It's kind of a run-stopping D-line. Lawrence Guy is kind of going to be their D-end on one side. They brought in Bo Allen to play nose tackle. In Danny Shelton on the way out. I would prefer Danny Shelton. They also have John Simon in there as well. This group's going to stop the run at a pretty solid level. Just not a lot of pressure here from this group. But moving on to the next 3-4 teams that we rank. Number 12 is going to be the Packers. Kenny Clark may be the best nose tackle in all of football. He kind of carries this group a bit here. Dean Lowry has some moments getting after the quarterback. Really, the Packers play two of these guys. They do have Lancaster as well, but a lot of the time you find them playing Lowry and Clark. Clark is their key piece here, and they'll use an extra pass rusher, instead, which is interesting, which made their defense unique and made it, somewhat of a hybrid defense. So I do like that. I just wish they would supply more talent around Kenny Clark because he is a top tier talent, and he's very young too. So he's going to be the top nose tackle in football for a long time. Interesting, just to explain, the Packers use a lot of just the two linemen for most of their snaps. The Titans do the same thing, but instead of using that extra pass rusher, they'll use an extra inside linebacker because they like to do different things with that extra inside linebacker, sometimes rush the passer. So most of the time you will see Jeffrey Simmons and Daquan Jones out there, which is a strong two. They just drafted Murchison from NC State. I like the fit. It's just nothing to get crazy excited about. They also have Mack, who stood out last year for just a no-name guy. But a lot of the time, you're going to see Simmons and Jones out there by themselves. They use an extra inside linebacker. But those two are very solid. Jeffrey Simmons was a top-tier prospect, dropped to the back end of the first round only because of an injury concern and the off-the-field issue. But obviously, it's a very talented dude there. The Bears took a tough blow with Eddie Goldman opting out. That one dropped them down quite a bit because it's kind of Akeem Hicks carrying this group. John Jenkins will kind of fill that role as the nose tackle. And then, losing my voice here, and then they got Roy Robertson Harris, who actually, somewhat of a no-name guy, really stood out last year, especially early in the year, getting after the quarterback. So, and they do have Bilal Nichols, who will rotate with him as the 3-4 end there. So maybe they have some options. Kind of weak at the nose tackle position. Hicks hopefully stays healthy, kind of has to carry the group a little bit maybe, but they do have some other guys that can step up, like I mentioned. The Jets at number 9, Quinton Williams will step up big time this year. This guy will play all over. He can play the DN, the D tackle, the nose tackle. So I love about Quinton Williams. He'll get after the quarterback. He'll stop the run. McClendon's pretty solid there at the nose tackle, and they also have Kyle Phillips as well, and Anderson's a good rotation guy. You expected him to get more snaps, but Phillips actually got more snaps last year. We'll see what happens this year. But I think a pretty balanced group, but then you have the upside of Quinton Williams here for sure. I think he's going to tear it up this year. The Dolphins, they'll give a hybrid look. You know, the Patriots tree with Brian Flores. I'm projecting more 3-4. I'm almost hoping they go more 3-4 because this D-line right here is kind of built for that. There's a lot of wait and see. You know, Wilkins got a lot of upside. He kind of fits the D-tackle role. And then Godchaux fits the nose tackle role, you know, under the radar guy, you know, more impressive than what he gives credit for. Shaq Lawson, coming from the Bills, actually coming from Clemson, let's back up that far, I actually graded him as a 3-4 end, and then he had that 4-3 role with the Bills, and it really wasn't surprising to me that he was struggling a little bit in that because I viewed him as strictly a 3-4 end. He did start to pick it up last year, but hoping he plays a 3-4 end role for the Dolphins here. The Buccaneers had a very top-tier run defense last year, really. A lot has to do with this defensive front, but the inside linebackers as well, and that has to do with the linebacker unit rankings video. But this is part of it here. Ndamukong Suh play their D-tackle role. Vita Vea is an up-and-coming, you know, on the rise nose tackle. Really started to break out last year, but I don't know if the breakout has really happened yet. I'm expecting it to happen. And then Golston as well would be their D-end. So, yeah, that was a very good run-stopping group last year. They're not going to get crazy pressure on the quarterback, but that's what they got those pieces in there to do, stop the run, and then let their four linebackers kind of handle the rest of the business there. Moving on, number 6 is going to be the Texans with J.J. Watt, who can also be an edge rusher. So you've seen him play the 5 and the 3 technique there. You know, they can give a little bit different looks. They'll run a little bit of Leo, and they'll run a little bit of, you know, heavy nickel packages. That's why they got a ton of nickel corners. Blacklock, who they drafted, this could be Blackson. I mean, it could be a number of guys. They got a pretty good rotation, but Blacklock I like a lot. He can get that interior pressure, which they need desperately, you know, the Texans. And then Charles Omenihu, who was one of my steals of the draft a couple years ago, will be opposite of Watt there, and he can bring some solid pressure. So this group right here that is listed, you know, that team, that group is built to get that quarterback pressure, and I hope it does so there. The Rams at number 5. Yeah, Aaron Donald kind of carries this group a little bit, and it definitely boosts them up because he is the best in football. A'Shawn Robinson, who they bring in, and then Michael Brockers is a solid D-line option opposite of Aaron Donald there. Donald definitely boosts them up. These are some pretty good players here. It's just the true nose tackle position, I guess, is kind of the question mark there for the Rams. The Giants got a pretty balanced group. Leonard Williams playing the DN position. He'll get after the quarterback from the D-line. Dalvin Tomlinson will play the nose tackle. And Dexter Lawrence is more that D-tackle that could also play nose tackle. He's got a lot of upside, really high on Dexter Lawrence. And they also have B.J. Hill for the rotation as well, which is fantastic. That's a really balanced, good group there. That's the strong part of the Giants' defense. The Ravens really revamped their defensive line this offseason, adding some pass rush for it. Calais Campbell obviously will provide that as a 3-4 end. Brandon Williams stays put here. He's the nose tackle for them. And then Derek Wolfe, who also can provide some pressure from the edge. He's kind of the question mark there, though, because you see him get, you know, some years he's on, some years he's off. He had the injury at the end of last year. He's a really good player if he's on the field. Just want him to be healthy and be more consistent. So we'll see what Derek Wolfe's going to show up there. They also drafted Justin Matabuke from Texas A&M. So pretty good rotation there. They improved it in terms of getting pressure. You know, in terms of the run stopping, it'll be around the same. It maybe, you know, they had a bunch of nose tackles that felt like in there, so it made sense why they stopped the run. Maybe they can take a little bit of a hit in that category. But Brandon Williams is still in there. And Campbell can stop the run at a pretty high level. The Steelers, number 2, they lost Javon Hargrave, so that keeps them from being 1. They actually trade for a Raven in Chris Wormley, which is going to be interesting to see him play nose tackle because, you know, even though it felt like the Ravens had a bunch of nose tackles out there, playing the true nose was Brandon Williams and Michael Pierce switching off. So Wormley, we'll see how he handles it. We'll see how he takes over the role for Hargrave. You know, it won't be as good there, but he's a solid player. The outside of the defensive line is where they make their money there. Cam Hayward, obviously a top-tier player. Stephon Tuitt I like a lot. He's a really good player if he's on the field. A lot of minor injuries popping up here and there. Not crazy depth here. Losing Hargrave, I guess, takes a little bit of a hit, but they're still number 2. I got the Broncos at number 1, and I put deep rotation there because, I didn't really want to. I wanted to, but I didn't want to list a bunch of the players they have because I didn't want anybody to get confused. They're a 3-4 team, so I listed the 3 that I predict to start. But, man, is this group deep. The rotation is ridiculous. You got a standout guy in Jarrell Casey, who was a leader for the Titans for so long. Can stop the run at a high level, can get after the quarterback. Shelby Harris had a breakout year last year, really good nose tackle that can provide interior pressure. And then Mike Purcell was kind of a standout guy last year, too, for them. Pretty similar player to Shelby Harris. They can rotate. We can switch these guys in and out from that nose position in more of a D-tackle position. But you got Draymond Jones from Ohio State a couple years ago. He's going to get some pressure from the D-line. He's going to play a lot more. DeMarcus Walker, who I always liked a lot, standout guy from Florida State some time ago. And they draft one of my sleepers in McTelvin Agim from Arkansas. That guy's a stud. He can move around to multiple different spots. I don't know if it's been some time since I've seen a rotation this deep with guys that can make an impact, and I love me some rotation there on the D-line. You have guys for every situation. You have guys for first down. You have the guys for the obvious passing downs, the obvious short yardage, goal line. You have them all. Vic Fangio has loaded this group up, and that gets me excited for a team like the Broncos. We're moving on to the 4-3 defensive line teams here. The Seahawks are going to come in at 18. I like the interior. Jaron Reed and Poona Ford, pretty good group up there. Reed can provide some pressure. Ford can stop the run. There really isn't a true nose tackle. Poona Ford can play it, though. On the edge, that's kind of what puts them towards the bottom. Daryl Taylor, I expect to get most of the snaps really this year, and I like Daryl Taylor from Tennessee. He actually could be their best pass rusher right away. Bruce Irvin or L.J. Collier. They have some options. Their strength is the inside. Without Quentin Jefferson, they take a hit there on the inside as well. And he played outside as well, too. Don't forget, he moved around quite a bit. And they don't have a lot of depth there, I guess, on the inside, perhaps. Maybe Rasheem Green. I feel like he's a 3-4 end. I don't know if he's in the right system there. So the Seahawks are a top-tier team, and this is a very important aspect of being a top-tier team. This kind of weighs them down a bit, so that's kind of the blow to the Seahawks there. The Jags, I like what they got on the edge. It's still kind of a wait and see for Clavon Chason. I think he can make an impact right away, but he's kind of one of those guys where don't be surprised if he struggles, a little early. But the future is bright. They're gonna have to get the interior together though. Taven Bryan, I graded as a 3-4 end. He hasn't really played that for the Jags. They have the ability to switch to a 3-4 because they have the players. A lot of these guys can play 3-4. I almost prefer them to, but it sounds like they're going to keep it. Maybe we'll see a little different looks. Aubrey Jones in there. Yeah, the interior is probably the worst in football, honestly, and that's tough. But the outside looks good for the future, and since they have that in place, they can start focusing on the inside. The Lions coming in at 16. I think a pretty balanced group. We're going to need to see more from Flowers this year. Trey Flowers, I think we will. Danny Shelton will play the nose tackle. He'll stop the run, so it's really not much difference from Snacks last year. Deshaun Hand, who can move in and outside. He can provide some pressure. He looked good at rookie year. Didn't get to see a whole bunch of them last year. And Okwara, which one? They have Romeo and they have Julian Okwara. Probably a bit more of Romeo right off the bat, but Julian Okwara has way more upside out of the Notre Dame brothers there. They have some options. This is what I was getting hyped on them last year. It ended up being very underwhelming. They got some options. Jamie Collins I have with the linebackers, but he could be used as an edge rusher as well. They got options. It's what Flowers is going to show up, I suppose. The Falcons next. They got some big-time players there. The Lions got the balance, but the Falcons got two big-time players. Dante Fowler Jr., which I'm hesitant to call him big-time because he's been hot and cold. And how will he be with the Falcons now? How will he be? It's a little bit different scheme. They have the ability to switch to 3-4, so we'll see. Grady Jarrett's a top-tier D tackle. They have Tyler Davison and Tack McKinley. Hopefully those guys can step up a bit more this year. They also drafted Marlon Davidson, who I viewed as more of a 3-4 end. Could play the 3 technique. I think he'll be part of the rotation. Maybe they'll start to get ready to move to a 3-4, or they'll view him as a replacement for McKinley in the future. So it's a good rotation piece, I suppose. Marlon Davidson out of Auburn. The Colts, you have maybe two guys kind of holding them up here. DeForest Buckner is a big time pickup here. They're really lacking that piece in terms of from the interior. Grover Stewart's going to be more of the nose tackle. They also have Danico Autry who can kind of rotate in, but Buckner really carries that group. And then the outside, they have Justin Houston, who, even though he's probably on his way out, declining a little bit, he's still a good player. He still gets after the quarterback, still some good pressure last year. Kamoko Ture, who I like his upside, they missed him last year in an injury, and there's some upside there on the outside. They're kind of all. I've talked about this, and even when they drafted these guys years ago, they're kind of all over the place. Ben Banogu there, I thought was more of a 3-4 pass rusher. Tyquan Lewis, they're kind of moving him in and out. Not sure where to stick him, but I guess they have options there. For the Colts defense line, which is good. It just feels like there's a little bit of a carrying going on here. Kind of same with the Vikings. Danielle Hunter, a top-tier pass rusher, kind of, I guess, brings them up from being at the very bottom. Losing Linval Joseph, but bringing in Michael Pierce was great. Michael Pierce opts out, so that's a tough blow. They're not strong at all in the interior. They have options. They're pretty deep in terms of guys that can play. Armand Watts actually looked pretty solid, the Arkansas nose tackle last year, who they picked up. And they have Hercules Mataafa, who can surprise some. They have options, but no standout guys. Jaleel Johnson's going to have to step up. Shamar Stephen and Odenigbo actually was very impressive last year, even though he was a rotation guy. Very productive for the amount of snaps he got. So that's a guy to kind of watch out for, but it does feel like Danielle Hunter kind of carries the group. But again, they do have options as well. So we'll see how losing Michael Pierce. And they tried to trade for P.J. Hall, and he didn't pass his physical from the Raiders. So they're still in the market for a D tackle potentially here. Moving on to the next group of teams, the Panthers coming at number 12. This is a sneaky group right here. You got Brian Burns, a solid draft pick out of Florida State last year, and I did grade him as a 3-4 outside linebacker, and they switched to 3-4, but now it sounds like they're going to switch back to 4-3. So how will Burns be as a 4-3 end? Because usually you want a little more strength on the 4-3 ends compared to 3-4 outside linebackers, a little more. So we'll see how that works out. I'm confident he'll be a bright spot for a long time there, just maybe not crazy right away. Derek Brown is a sure thing, stud D tackle that can move around a bit. Kawan Short's been a little quiet over the last couple of years. Hopefully he can step up. And then Gross Matos there was a solid pick. He actually can slide in and play some 3 technique as well. And they did pick up Stephen Weatherly, too, who can kind of fill the same thing as Matos. He's almost the same thing. Play DN, come and get inside, play 3 technique a bit. So, yeah, they're pretty solid. Nothing that's crazy stand out right away. Some of these guys will be. But, yeah, it could be a sneaky young team right there. The Raiders, next, another young group. Max Crosby and Cleveland Farrell. Crosby was better last year, but Farrell still supposed to be that top guy, and I still have confidence in him to reach that potential. The inside's looking a little better. Malik Collins from the Cowboys, and then Maurice Hurst, of course. Nothing that really wows, but I think there's some that can. Crosby can wow. Cleveland Farrell can. It's a pretty balanced group, balanced young group here. Cowboys, DeMarcus Lawrence carries this group a little bit, but they have some balance to the rest of it. Gerald McCoy, Don Terry Poe will be the nose tackle for them. They bring in Alden Smith. What does he have left in the tank? Can he get back to shape? Possible. They do have some options. Maybe a guy like Dorrance Armstrong could step up in the edge position there. The Bengals edge could get a little better, but a guy like Hubbard could be improving, the younger player out of Ohio State. And then Carlos Dunlap's been pretty solid, pretty consistent for them. The interior, on the other hand, looking pretty good right here. Geno Atkins and DJ Reader, who they get from the Texans. So Atkins, more of the D tackle, Reader, more of the nose tackle there. It's a group that's gotten better. They'll provide some pressure from the inside, and then they should get enough, and that'll kind of help the outside guys there. The Bills, another team that is way stronger on the inside. Ed Oliver's going to be a stud. He can move around a bit, get pressure from the inside. Vernon Butler can move around as well. He can play D tackle, nose tackle. And they had a great pickup, one of my favorite pickups in Quinton Jefferson. I don't think he starts, but he's going to play a lot. He can play inside at a D tackle, and he can play almost as an end as well. And then I'm projecting starters Jerry Hughes and Mario Addison on the outside. You're not going to see crazy numbers from these guys. They're solid pass rush. You're not going to see crazy numbers. A.J. Epinesa, who they drafted from Iowa, could end up being one of the more productive players from the D-line, really. Maybe not starting right away. The question with him was, does he have the athleticism to play outside in this type of defense? But is he familiar with the inside? So they're going to maybe... They're gonna move him around a bit. They're gonna try to get him to adjust to this level a little bit. So maybe you won't see a crazy amount of him right away, but he can be very productive. But yeah, I like that interior. The interior is pretty deep for the Bills. That's where the game changing is going to happen. The Browns are next, really strong with the first two. Myles Garrett and Sheldon Richardson, really strong group there. Garrett obviously being the defensive end, Richardson kind of being that three technique to provide some pressure on the inside. So that's a strong group. Ogunjobi, pretty solid. A little bit of an upside too. Olivier Vernon's really nowhere near the same as he once was. He was a solid player on the end, but definitely nowhere near where he once was. They also picked up Claiborne. He can add on to some pressure as well. Not having a true nose tackle could hurt the run game a little bit. Garrett and Richardson is a good duo there, even though they're not at the same position, to keep them up here at number 7. On to the top 6. I have the Saints at number 6. Cameron Jordan, obviously a top-tier defensive end and very consistent. One of those guys we all know what we're going to get from him, some high production. Sheldon Rankins I like a lot. Really good at getting pressure from the inside. He just got to stay healthy. He got hurt before he even played year 1. We've seen him miss a chunk last year as well. We've seen how much better they are with him. Onyemata they have as well on the inside. They also have Malcolm Brown to rotate with him or fill in if Rankins gets hurt. And then Davenport, who has a ton of upside, and he was hurt last year as well. But he's going to continue to get better and better. So if healthy, it's a really strong group here. The Chiefs are next. Frank Clark, obviously a top-tier pass rusher perhaps. Going to continue to get better. That was his first year with the Chiefs. Chris Jones, the second best D tackle in football, an elite football player in my opinion. Obviously a guy that can do it all, get pressure, stop the run, both at a high level. Derek Notty's a nose tackle. He's going to stop the run at a pretty solid level there. And I'm predicting Breeland Speaks coming off an injury, maybe to get more snaps than the rest if he stays healthy. But they're pretty deep. They got Tano Passanio, who I guess won from the scheme change. I think he's better in this type of scheme because I did grade him out of Villanova as a 4-3 end, so that worked out for him. And Alex Okafor as well. And they have Saunders on the inside. They got a number of guys. That's a really deep rotation. Yeah, Clark and Jones, the standout guys, well above the rest. It's a really good group here, though. The Chargers at number 4, playing their Leo defense, both of the D-end, and Ingram kind of that Leo. He can play D-end. He can kind of step off the ball as well. Maybe he's not as good as he was a couple years ago, but still he's a very valuable player to them, a very important piece that makes everyone else better. The inside, they had Linval Joseph. Finally they got a solid nose tackle to play inside Bosa there. Linval Joseph, very good. He just got to stay healthy because he's got these minor injuries. Sometimes he plays through injuries. He's getting a little older. Maybe he was elite, 3-4 years ago. Not quite there, not there anymore, but it's definitely an upgrade for them. And Jerry Tillery, a little underwhelming last year, but I like Tillery. Especially inside Ingram. It's kind of that perfect, because sometimes Ingram steps off the ball a little bit, so that's where Tillery can kind of rush, that's what he was very good at Notre Dame there. So I think it's a pretty well built team and how they line and how they complement each other there. The Eagles at 3, I think the Eagles can get unique. They're base 4-3, but I think they can get unique, switch things up. Brandon Graham and Derek Barnett. Barnett, I think, could step up this year. Fletcher Cox, obviously one of the better D tackles in football. He can move around a bit, really strong at 3 technique. And then Javon Hargrave, the nose tackle from the Steelers. They've really been missing a really solid true nose tackle, and they get that with Hargrave. Don't forget they also have Malik Jackson in there who can play kind of that 3 and 5 technique for them. And that kind of Hargrave and Malik Jackson kind of give them flexibility where they can actually almost become a 3-4. We'll see. I would hope they actually give that a test at one point. We'll see if they do it, because they can actually use Cox, Hargrave, and Malik Jackson on the defensive front. If they wanted to run with three, they could go with Cox, Hargrave, and Barnett. Barnett actually played 3-4 end for the Tennessee Volunteers back in the day, and I liked him a lot there. And then Graham has the ability to step off perhaps, and they have Josh Sweat, who is a pretty good rusher from stepping off the ball, which his only concern was health, of course, because he's very talented. So it's a pretty complete. Very good from the inside. That interior pressure is going to change the game, and they're unique. They're very unique, so I'm excited about this group. Washington football team number 2. It's a very deep group here. They add Chase Young. I think Chase Young and Ryan Kerrigan get most snaps, but Montez Sweat, who I was very high on last year out of Mississippi State, is going to get a whole bunch of snaps as well. So that is just 3 strong defensive ends alone there. And the inside, you have Deron Payne, who's the nose tackle, a very solid young nose tackle, and Jonathan Allen, who can provide pressure from the inside, and Matt Ioannidis they have, who can provide pressure from the inside. I mean, we talked about the 3-4 teams, and I was in love with the Broncos' depth. Look at this Washington team's depth. It is ridiculous. Ron Rivera is set here. It was a very appealing job to him because of this. It's a good group here. And I'm very excited to meet Chase Young and Montez Sweat of the future on the edge. Very excited about that. So a very strong group. Still had to go with the Niners at 1, though. A bit more proven, I suppose. That was a slight difference. Washington maybe a little deeper. But Bosa, obviously proven after 1 year, a game changer, making the impact plays at the right time. And they'll run their Leo defense as well, much like the Chargers. And they both have Bosas, actually. Coincidence? Even though they're the same, not really, because they're the same style of player, and Ford and Ingram are very similar as well. Bosa's going to have hand in dirt. Ford actually drop a coverage, too. He'll drop off the ball a bit, rush from there, and they're able to do that because Armstead can kind of play the DN position if Ford is off and drop him back, or he can play a D tackle position. They have Kinlaw to replace Buckner. You can't really expect the exact replacement right off the bat, but he's going to be pretty similar impact-wise, maybe even more in no time. Javon Kinlaw is that good, and he has that much upside. And they also have Solomon Thomas there. It almost feels like Armstead and Ford are kind of depth guys, like great rotation guys at the same time as their starters, basically because they can play multiple positions and still be on the field when other guys are in. So even though Bosa's kind of the big name here, Armstead and Ford are very key, I think, underrated players there. So the Niners' defensive front, very close with Washington, though, because Washington's got some top-tier players. If Chase Young, to me, I'm confident he'll be proven in no time. And that can really just boost them up to 1. But how deep they are, ridiculous. So I'm excited about that Washington front to watch them. But that is my defensive line rankings for both schemes there. Let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments. I want to see your rankings. If you got top 3, top 5, whatever it is, love to see it. Start some debates in there. Smash that like button. Subscribe to both of our channels. That would be much appreciated. Can't wait for football season. Hopefully you can join us for all that content we got during the season. That's going to do it, though. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.